The reason why we decided to launch satellites is not because it's just cool. It's because only from the space you can expand coverage meaningfully. When I was flipping my company from Korea to a US company, I had to move over $100,000 in Bitcoin.
20 years ago, when you would get fined or arrested for pirating stuff on LimeWire, compared to now you have multi-billion-dollar AI companies that just went and trained their entire model on it.
Now is the perfect time for us to rebuild internet infrastructure so that people can have permissionless option when it comes to connectivity. My first satellite was probably one of the most nervous things because I've never done it before. Wow, it's less of a thing these days, but rockets sometimes blow up.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another Beluga live stream. I am your favorite 21-year-old crypto degen alpha, back at you again with more great content. So Beluga, if you're not aware, is the nerd wallet for crypto. We stay in the trenches 24/7, so you do not have to. We have a newsletter written 3 times a week by Will. It's the best crypto info out there, and it's completely free. So make sure you subscribe at our website, heybeluga.com. We also write articles about everything going on in crypto so you can stay informed. And finally, we host this podcast with the most interesting people in crypto. So if you're interested in listening to more great guests, make sure you follow. As an added bonus, I made a deal with our CEO and my mom that if this gets on the trending page, I will drop out of college and record it, and then we'll post it on Beluga's X account the very next day. So if you want to help me get out of school and be a full-time degen, please make sure you share this with your friends. So today we're joined by Teo, founder of Spacecoin, the first DePIN project in space. Spacecoin is building a decentralized internet powered by satellites, and they recently hit a major milestone, launching 3 satellites into orbit via SpaceX. The Space token also went live earlier this year. Before Spacecoin, Teo founded CreditCoin, which enables on-chain credit reputations through borrowing and lending, giving the unbanked and crypto native users a way to build credit on blockchain rails. So without further ado, let's bring Teo in here. Teo,
Hi,
what's
everyone.
up? How's it going?
Thanks for having me, Nathan.
So, what got you into crypto?
Stupidity. I was still in college back then. I still had a chance to drop out like you. And I got into Bitcoin. Bitcoin was a very big thing back then. It was a senior year in my college, and I just got fascinated by it. And I was supposed to go to law school after graduating, but I deferred and ended up founding this company that I'm currently working at. I was working for it ever since.
What was the single most impactful moment for your crypto career, do you think?
I think the single most impactful moment in terms of my business is that I was still young and foolish enough to start a company. If I was asked to start a company today without my current company, I think I couldn't have done it. So I think I was being young and foolish enough back then was the single biggest factor that got me into crypto and building this company and the projects that I'm currently working on.
Given that, your thing is that you launch satellites, what's the hardest part about launching satellites into space logistically?
So most of the satellites today are one of one. So think of it as making, let's say, like any product, but let's compare it to watches, because I think that's the easier comparison. Like if you are buying a limited edition of a watch or anything, if it's one of one, it's one of 10, it's more expensive because it's limited edition, right? But it's not for a fact that it's limited edition, because it's more expensive to make smaller amount of things. If you start mass producing like tens of thousands of things, then the cost of building things starts to go down because you know how to build it better, you know how to automate it better. And also the sourcing of the parts is easier. If you're asking a part maker to make like one-on-one parts just for your one satellite, then he has to charge you all the R&D costs that's going to be required for that one part, charge all that to that part. So it's just very expensive. Also, the quality and the the stability of the parts is not as good as mass-produced products. Like for example, because Nvidia is the biggest company these days, I think it would be easier to think about Nvidia GPUs. And Nvidia GPUs you buy off the shelf, it works as described, and also comes with a thorough manual about how to use it, how to make it compatible with all the other components that you already have. But if you're making one-on-one stuffs, then often, surprisingly, although you're buying a very expensive, like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of things, it's poorly documented, poorly tested, and many of them break. So there has to be a back and forth of, okay, oh, this part doesn't work. Why does it not work? Oh, we didn't document it, but you actually have to use it like this, and then this back and forth has to happen until we figure out how to actually make the part work. And that is the hardest part in terms of building the satellite. Launching the satellite itself is handled very professionally, so it's not as difficult as the building part. So the R&D and the building of the satellite is the hardest.
So, taking a step back, for those who don't know, how would you describe what Spacecoin is and what it does?
So Spacecoin is a currency of Space Network, and the goal of this network is to provide decentralized internet infrastructure with a global coverage. And because it is decentralized, we are going to enable permissionless connectivity or extreme net neutrality. Today, the internet infrastructure is controlled by a few ISPs, telcos, governments, and so on and so forth. Because of the capex, of building internet infrastructure is so expensive, and it has to get centralized. And when it's centralized, naturally it is controlled, it is censored. We thought it will be a great opportunity, given the commoditization of the space thanks to SpaceX. Now is a perfect time for us to rebuild the internet infrastructure so that people can have a permissionless option when it comes to connectivity.
Why do you think that internet is a basic human right?
It's freedom of speech where you talk most these days. Probably online, talking to random people online more than you have a conversation with a people in person. So internet is a medium of speech, and freedom of speech is very important. People in Iran today will probably know this by heart.
Certainly, no, I agree, and it reminds me a little bit of the sovereign individual, which is on Peter Thiel's reading list, and how the sovereign individual, they basically talk about how the current landscape of the world is going to continue to fractionalize, and you're going to see smaller states, and then you're going to see everything sort of go into cyberspace, and with that comes more freedom because you have more choice, right? And I sort of see a world where what did Peter Thiel say a few years ago, that like, I think he's corrected himself on this statement. I don't know if he still holds it, but a few years ago he said that AI is authoritarian and crypto is libertarian, and that we'll basically see a dichotomy between sort of AI powered surveillance states that have like, say, like UBI and like permanent underclass, and then you have the other extreme, which is going to be like totally free, sort of crypto based states where people come and go as they please. What do you think about that?
I think there's a truth in it, but I'm not sure if that's the whole truth. So let me elaborate on the idea. So AI being authoritarian makes sense, in a way that AI enables authoritarian leaders to surveil all the people with infinite amount of computing power better. And for example, it's probably the expansion of what I do with my AI agents today with my email inbox, for example. I have many email inboxes, and I have to periodically check into each inbox to make sure that there are no email that I have to respond immediately or mark something that I have to respond like later on. Instead of me doing that, I periodically check into my inbox through my AI agents, and now they flag anything that's important so that I pay attention immediately. So I don't have to go through my inboxes anymore manually. Expand this to all of your phones or your computers. So instead of government assigning an agent per person, they can just assign an AI agent per person, reading all their calls, messages, emails, web traffic, whereabouts by tracking you through your smartphone, your cars, who do you talk to. Now that's possible because AI agents can do it without us having to hire one agent per person. So
Is that scary?
it can be, it is scary, but I already believe that was reality. Anything that's online, that's digitized, is an open book in a long enough time frame. So let me elaborate on this point too. So we are currently using encryption methods to encrypt our messages so we can communicate privately, right? But in a long enough time frame, that encryption method will get broken. So for example, quantum computer is said that it will break Bitcoin at some point, right? I mean, Bitcoin will be quantum resistant in the future, but all the block history that happened before quantum resistance will get decrypted. And Bitcoin is one thing, but imagine all the stupid things that you said to your ex online. That will also get decrypted. That will also be an open book. So whatever you say online in a long enough time frame, it's already an open book. So you just have to make sure you delete things along the way, so that when the decryption happens, then there aren't that much content to read about. But anyway, and that's one case. And even the network, people already know who you are connecting to. They might not know what message that you're sending them, but they will still know who you're contacting. So for example, if your messenger is contacting some guy or girl, they know that you guys are talking to each other. So while they don't get to read the decrypted messages because they don't have key, we hope, they still know who's talking to whom, who has a relationship with whom, and when they're talking to each other, they all know that. So there's so much information out there already to identify you as an individual, relationship, and your activities. Even before AI agents, we are already pretty exposed. But AI agents take this beyond the capacity of just reading what you are talking, who you're talking about, when you're talking about. Now they can actually watch you, and if there's anything worthy of flagging, they can report back to whoever the owner is. So now it's more automated. The way I think about AI is generally is automation of automation. It is along that line. I think it's a tool for authoritarian, but it's also a tool for individuals, libertarians too, in a different sense. So let me elaborate on that point too. So anything that we have today, people don't think it's ephemeral. They treat it as if we are going to keep it for a while, if not forever. What I mean by that is when you buy a new computer, for example, you don't plan on throwing it away the day after. Why? Because one is because it's so expensive, but two, because there's no other better option. Like if you bought a computer, which is the newest computer or whatever computer they can afford or want it today, by tomorrow, there's no other computer better option than what you have. already, right? But with infinite amount of abundance, maybe that won't be the case. Maybe every day you'll get to have a new computer that's slightly better or massively better than yesterday, or for a different that fits your different needs of today. So basically, material will be like toilet papers. It will be so accessible, abundant, and that mindset is already there for code. Now, writing code is before the model of SaaS was build something very well, and while it doesn't fit customized for everybody's use case, but let's make it generic enough so that many people, for most people, it makes sense, and let's reuse it over and over. That's the SaaS model. That was basically the software model up until AI. Now, because of AI, building software is getting costless. Like it's almost instant. So everybody's going to build their own custom software for whatever private needs they have. And they will end up having their own custom version of whatever. So while today let's say you're using a messenger for that everybody shares with the same interface, maybe you don't want that interface, then just you swap up the client and build your own custom interface for whatever needs that you have. And everybody will have a custom software, and that even that custom software will not last that long. Whenever you have a changing needs, then you will swap it with a new software written by AI. So we don't have to rely on big companies to build you something that you would need for your daily life or work. So in that sense, it's more liberating. So maybe AI is a tool for individuals in that sense. So so I think we can use the tool in both ways. So some people will use it for control, but many people will also use it to get freedom.
That makes sense. Looping back in to Spacecoin, how do the benefits of DePIN in space compare to more traditional DePIN projects?
The reason why we decide to launch satellites is not because it's just cool. It is cool, but not because of that. It's because only from the space you can expand coverage meaningfully. Let me elaborate on this point. So if you do it on the ground, let's say you're putting on a cell tower. Let's say we're creating a DePIN of cell towers. Well, cell towers barely expand the coverage. Like it can cover, let's say, 1 kilometer in diameter. It's not that far. So you don't really meaningfully expand the coverage so that everybody can share that your asset, which is the cell tower in this case. But on the other hand, satellites can send messages across thousands of kilometers. So the coverage is 1,000 times, 100 times, not 100 times, like 1,000 and million times better than a cell tower would have. So that is why you have to build the internet infrastructure from space to be meaningfully covering the surface of Earth. So ultimately, we will have a decentralized satellite network and permissionless connectivity globally. But that's the ultimate goal, right? And in the meantime, we're gonna build meaningful technologies and services reaching that goal. So soon you'll find space network, the router technology enabled version of, you can think of it as more of a ground version of space network, where you can use it like a VPN or proxy. We're actually building something for AI agents now using this technology.
Really?
Yeah. Because so as we were using AI agents, one thing that we noticed is the services, web services, who doesn't expect AI agents, which is most services these days, are blocking based on your IPs, right? Like if you're reaching from a data center, they immediately block you because they assume you're a bot. The difference between the bot back then and today is bot back then was just scraping your data and just abuse you, right? So you don't get any value out of that traffic. But bot these days maybe they want to buy something from you. So, for example, I was trying to automate my Amazon order with AI agents, but Amazon blocked me. So I have to, unless I run the AI agent locally on my home computer, it doesn't work. So we thought of this as a very interesting problem. Like, okay, using our routing logic that we were building for a space network, why not build a proxy, a residential proxy for AI agents to use and let individuals participate as a proxy provider and earn Spacecoin for it? So that will be our primitive version of this space routing technology, and immediately useful. Immediately, people are already charging for this kind of service. So for one residential IP address, they charge like a couple of dollars, which is not a big amount of money, but at scale, it is pretty big. The market is already like a couple $1 billion for this kind of
Oh,
purposes.
it's huge. My first experience with proxies was when I was younger. I loved sneakers. So I grew up playing
Yeah,
basketball,
yeah.
and
So you know what I'm saying, right?
yeah, so naturally the evolution of that is I wanted the sneakers that would come out and they'd sell out in 3 seconds. So then my
Yeah,
friend Alec and I in like fifth grade, we were like trying to like make our own sneaker bot because we went
yeah,
to
yeah,
like
yeah.
Stanford coding camp and like tried to learn how to code a sneaker bot, and we tried to buy a sneaker bot. And then after that, we were like, oh, we need proxies because if we send
Yes,
a bunch of traffic to go buy sneakers all from the
yeah,
same place, they're just going to block us
yeah,
and we'll never be able to buy them again. So I
yeah,
went down that
yeah.
entire rabbit hole.
Right,
There's a
right.
huge use case for that already. But now with AI
Yeah,
agents, it's like
yeah.
1,000 times, 10,000 times bigger of a
Oh,
market. It's not just a bunch of
it's going to be crazy because AI agents are growing massively, as you already know, and I think it's only gonna grow like 10x, 100x from now. Like I think it makes sense for us to build for AI agents before people, because AI agents, one, they are great at computer. so,
well,
so even if I give them a very technical product, they can still understand and use it. So that's why we thought this is actually a great opportunity for us to start shipping, because before we were planning on building this for more of a human with the UI, but now we can just launch with CRI or SDK.
well, there's the whole in business. There's the whole idea of are you B2C or B2B, right? Business to consumer or business to business.
Yeah,
I just saw a tweet last week, and it was someone saying that the next really important wave is B2A, business to agent,
it is.
and we're
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree.
so given that you're trying to build infrastructure for AI agents, does that presuppose that you believe that AI is coming on chain?
AI will come on chain. Absolutely. I 100% believe that. So let me elaborate like what kind of use cases we can give to AI. So for example, before Spacecoin, I built Credit Coin, right? So we do credit lending without collateral. But there was one problem about uncollateralized lending. So because it's uncollateralized, the amount that I can lend to you is small, right? Like, but as a human, there's a minimum amount of loan size that makes sense to you. You don't fill out like all this papers for mortgage for $2 loans. Like, doesn't make sense. Even asking for $2 as a loan is waste of your time for most people, right? But for
Yep.
AI agents who just wants to pay gas fee, even $1 is meaningful. Now the logic that we're working on is okay, because we want to add individuals as contributors for this proxy network, but we want to them have to have a stake of Spacecoin to defend our network from the civil attack. But instead of making them buy Spacecoin, we initially lend them very small amount of Spacecoin so they can get started, and they pay back the loan with the space coin they earn through the providing the service to other AI agents. And all this reduces the friction. And this is a financial service, but happens all on chain. And because these are for AI agents, and it's more easier for us to build, and also it's more scalable as a user base because the AI agents user base is growing. So it's a very interesting point of time. We are internally talking a lot of how AI agents will fit into the ecosystem that we are building.
I'm super bullish on AI and crypto. I think it is one of the coolest spaces, and it's a place where we'll probably see large scale crypto adoption from traditional retail people
Absolutely.
because there's such a need
Yeah.
for having an agent that can pay people with a crypto wallet, right? Most
Right.
people know about the idea that agents can't use a credit card, and we've all heard agent horror stories of even spending too much on API credit, so you would never want to give it a credit card,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you would be more comfortable giving it a crypto balance. So
Absolutely.
I'd love to double click on more of your thoughts about this AI coming on chain. Do you think that AI on chain deserves its own chain, similar to something like a BitTensor, or do you think it'll belong on a L1 or and sort of get ported over to L2s with something like Ethereum and uh, Morpheus?
AI on chain can mean a very different thing. Are we putting AI model on chain, or are we putting AI training on chain? Are we putting AI infrastructure on chain? There's many different ways to put it on chain. I'm
Right.
mostly interested in AI agents using blockchain as a rails for payments or
Hmm.
objective data storage. That is where I see the most product market fit. AI itself, the model, I think it deserves to live off chain because repeating the computation over and over, distributed, sounds like a nightmare to me. So I think the AI infrastructure will stay not too different from what we have today, living off chain, but then transacting with each other will happen on chain.
I agree with the transacting part. I do see, I think you're going to see a big battle between the traditional AI companies and the decentralized AI companies because, I mean, give a big part of uh, Spacecoin, for instance, is the fact that it's decentralized and open source, and I think that's super admirable. Um, and I'd love to talk a little more about that. But I also think that it's equally as important that AI and big AI models aren't just walled off and controlled by a handful of people like Sam Altman.
I think AI models eventually will not get walled off. So, but my idea is I'm not an AI expert, so anyone who's listening to this, correct me if I'm wrong, but hear me out. So, AI is basically a computer, the way I understand it. So, basically, given data, given computing power, you convert it, you convert those two into a model. That's how
Mhm.
I understand AI model primitively. Given time, everyone will end up having access to all that data or close to the sum of all the data that exists out there because there's a total, right? The data is not
Right,
infinite. It is some amount today, just infinitely growing, but the data is
right.
a limited amount. And the data that we have today will get accessible for everyone at a given time, is what I believe, because data will naturally get leaked. And given the same amount of data and given computing power, people will be able to convert those two into a powerful enough model that's on par with other models. So I think we will see a lot of open source models that is super powerful that will end up competing with closed source models. So not too different from Windows and Linux situation. There will be a lot of very powerful open source model, but is that on chain? Is the part that I'm not sure about because model itself doesn't have to be on chain. The way you train the model can be through blockchain. The way you source the computing power can be sourced via blockchain, but model itself is centralized. While open source, it can still be centralized.
No, I see an argument for both. We hosted an AI crypto panel a few weeks ago and one of the guys on the panel is a close friend, Rob Greer, who runs Stillcore Capital, which is the largest BitTensor fund in the world. So his sort of argument for BitTensor and having AI actually on chain, and having a lot of that computational power is, he said that Bitcoin is the largest data center, functionally like the largest data center in the world by 50 times in aggregate. And he was saying that if you can create the right incentives, you can have a similar magnitude of power working on training AI models using crypto as the incentive.
No, that's the training part. It makes sense. I'm talking about the result living on chain or not, and I'm not sure about the result, the model living on chain. Because
Yeah.
the way I think is, if you putting something on chain is basically meaning that every validator, every node has to repeat the same computation over and over. And to me, that
Right.
sounds very wasteful.
That is actually a good point. I I see your perspective. So with the whole data side of it, and given that you're very much about like open source and free internet, how do you feel just personally about like data and piracy laws? Uh, Say, 20 years ago when you would get fined or arrested for pirating stuff on LimeWire, compared to now you have multi-billion-dollar AI companies that just went and trained their entire model on it, and governments just don't care. Does that bother
Yeah,
you at all?
and it's just a reality that we have to live with. Did Google respect robot.txt? I'm not sure. Did Google not use YouTube data to train their AI model? They say they didn't. I'm not sure. Can we be sure about it? I don't know. I think there's no proof to accuse them, but there's no proof that they didn't get access to it. So they probably had some advantage, a lot of advantage, given they have data, a huge amount of video data sitting in their data center to train their models. I think that's why their video model is superb compared to other people. Yeah, but anyway, back to your point. Um, I'm not happy about. I'm not happy about it, but that's the reality that we have to live.
So going back to Spacecoin, why was it important for you to have everything be open source?
I mean, if you want to operate a decentralized network, so if you want a permissionless network, permissionless service, you have to operate it on top of decentralized network. I don't know any other way. Actually, I do know other way. The other way is relying on people's volunteer. So people volunteering for free and without incentive, but because they don't have incentive to be a good service provider, the quality of service sucks. So that's one way. And the example is something like torrent, IPFS, Tor. They're all voluntary participants, so they don't have incentive to be a good participant. So the service quality sucks. The other end is instead of asking you to do all the work for free, we're going to give you incentive, and that's the decentralized network, blockchain, crypto technology, which created Bitcoin, permissionless money, Ethereum, permissionless computation, and so on and so forth. Because that's the more better quality of service, that's more scalable. We chose blockchain technology to decentralize space network and to achieve permissionless connectivity. In order to decentralize network, we had to allow other people to independently run a validator or a node into system. In order for them to independently operate as a node, we have to give them open source that they can run. So that is why open source is inevitable when it comes to creating a blockchain technology.
How does your service compare to something like Starlink?
Our service doesn't exist yet, so it's hard to compare. But the way we think about it is because our network will be decentralized, there's going to be competition between nodes, and each node will optimize for more profit, meaning that it will optimize for better service to win the customer over. So when there are two different satellites in your site, you have a choice. You can choose A or B. And those satellite operators will have to optimize for better quality of service to get picked. So there's a quality of service part and the price part, and they will have to optimize those two in order to get chosen more from the customer, by the customer, so that they can make more money. So there's a decentralized system and disincentive. So it's just kind of comparing with a controlled economy and a market economy. I think market economy has more efficient way of distributing resources. And I think that's where we have an edge in terms of quality of service.
When do you foresee a full launch for customers where anyone will be able to log on and pay to use Spacecoin infrastructure?
You're gonna start using the AI agent router.
So I love that. Yeah, the moment that sounds great.
Yeah. So imagine the same technology getting evolving, and we're gonna continuously add more satellites into it. So basically, it will going to be incremental improvement. So the satellite will be not like, oh, click. Now the whole country has or the whole globe has the Spacecoin network access through satellite. Well, we're gonna incrementally make it better. But I think our ultimate goal, which is having a full coverage of decentralized satellite network, will happen in like 2 years.
What's something that you learned about space laws that you didn't know going into this?
So space laws, space has no law.
There's no rules. You can just
no. So let me clarify. So you are regulated by the country that you're launching from.
Interesting.
Because if you're launching from the US, like naturally you get regulated by FCC and FAA. Like if you're a telecommunication satellite, you're regulated by FCC because they regulate anything spectrum. If you're flying anything, airplane, drones, or satellites, you get regulated by FAA. But you don't get regulated by FAA equivalent in other countries while you still go on top of their air. So if I think the law is if it's like 300 kilometers or above, it's not regulated by the country below.
That's fascinating. So how did you think about the tokenomics of Spacecoin when creating the project? A lot of DePIN projects have failed in the past due to bad tokenomics.
I don't know why they failed. I don't know the details about their tokenomics. So I don't have a strong opinion about other projects' tokenomics. But in our case, we try to link the cost of generating the token, and also we have to link the value of the service that they're going to provide and create an equilibrium. So in our case, Spacecoin is first used as a stake of the node. So each node has to have certain amount of Spacecoin to get included in the network, which is value. The value for the network is blocking any the spam or DDoS, basically civil attack. And the second fold is people get paid in Spacecoin for whatever service that they promise. Certain amount of bandwidth to move data from point A to point B. And that's a market decision. So you can go out there as a node and say, oh, I'm going to charge you $5 for a gigabyte of transmission. If you get chosen by a client, then that's the market price. Like charts moving up and down, that's the market price, and that's the value of your service. and that will naturally match the value of Spacecoin that you're going to spend. So that's the buy power and the sell power that we are trying to create a balance by by including more of a market decision when it comes to Spacecoin value. Lastly, we are trying to bake this into the staking logic too. So we are going to give staking rewards, and by adding the service immediately, starting with the AI agent routing, and people have reason to run a node, one for staking reward, but two for the service fee that they're going to earn. So we are going to put a cost into the generation of Spacecoin. Sorry, I wanted to elaborate
No, I fully
further.
appreciate it.
Yeah. But
No,
I think
I think
it's very
tokenomics
hard to
is very
explain
interesting.
this. Yeah, it's very hard to explain in verbally.
Right. No, I understand that. Um, what was it like when you launched the token? Were you nervous about it?
Oh, you're always nervous about launching anything.
Were you more nervous to launch the token or the satellites?
My first satellite was probably one of the most nervous launch that I have ever done because I never done it before. And also, while it's less of a thing these days, but rockets sometimes blow up, right? So I didn't know if my 2 years of work, $2 million, is going to get destroyed or not. It wasn't short, but still, we're going to lose time on it. So I was very nervous about it, but it was successful.
Now we're going to go into the lightning round. The way the lightning round works is there are quick questions and quick answers. So answers should be 30 seconds or less. And we're just trying to get your general opinions on crypto and what's going on. So, Tay, are you ready for the lightning round?
Yes, I'm ready.
What's your favorite token of all time?
Credit coin.
What was your most memorable trade?
When I was flipping my company from Korea to US company, I had to move over $100,000 in Bitcoin. And that was back in 2016.
What's your AI model of choice?
These say I use Claude the most.
What's your favorite X account?
Naval.
Are you bullish or bearish right now?
I think I'm bullish, but yeah, I'm bullish.
Ethereum or Solana?
Ethereum,
Best meme coin of all time?
Dogecoin.
And what's your hottest crypto take?
I think crypto will be the biggest sector that benefits from AI agents' rise. I think crypto is probably one software that AI agents cannot replace because by the design of the system, it is not supposed to be ephemeral, while everything else became ephemeral for the reasons that we have discussed earlier. And crypto, because it has to stay forever, meant to stay forever as is, it's not going to get replaced. So I think crypto will be benefiting the most from AI agents' rise.
So given that you're very big on open source and making sure that Spacecoin is open source, as we've discussed. What do you think about Vitalik's recent X post where he talked about property rights and taxes and taxing companies based on their walled gardenness? Governments should sort of penalize people for being a walled garden. For instance, Apple, right? You go into the Apple ecosystem. Once you're fully immersed, it's great. Your AirPods automatically connect to your MacBook and you can FaceTime from your iPhone and switch it to your iPad, right? But when you try to get out of the ecosystem, it punishes you. And he said on the other sort of like extreme, you have something super open source where you can fork it. And he was saying that stuff that's open source and forkable should either be taxed lower or not be taxed at all because the utility can be reused by other people. So generally, what do you think about that idea?
I don't like that idea, but there's a reason. So I like the ideal. Okay, let me put it that way. I like his ideal. but I don't think it's going to work because even if I open source, anything open source does not mean it's beneficial for everyone. Some open source may benefit only some people, not useful for most people. And in that sense, having an open source by itself doesn't mean it's more public company, like publicly benefiting company compared to companies that's private sourced. So I think it's very hard to um, tell who's less text worthy and somebody who's more text worthy by using open source as a metric. So the ideal resonates, but I don't agree with the methodology. Let's say.
Fair enough. So we're coming to the end of our time here. I've really enjoyed this conversation. What do you want people to remember from our discussion today?
So we're going to release something very interesting as we discussed on the Spacecoin side. Please follow us on Twitter, X, so you can see it coming out, and hopefully, it's of course it's going to be started as an open source project. So hopefully, people who likes to tinker around with AI agents talk to us and tell us how we should make the product better and even send us PRs and stuff. So please follow our progress online.
Amazing. For those who may have joined before the intro, I'm Alpha. I am the 21-year-old crypto degen. Um, this is Beluga. Beluga is the nerd wallet for crypto. We stay in the trenches 24/7, so you do not have to. We have a newsletter that comes out 3 times a week that gives you free crypto info sent straight to your inbox. It's the best in the industry. We also have articles on our website, heybeluga.com, where we have 2 articles about Spacecoin actually. So if you want to read more, make sure you check them out. And along with everything else going on in the industry. And then finally, I host this podcast where I interview the most interesting people in crypto. So if you liked it, make sure that you share it with 2 people who you think would find it interesting, retweet it and comment. As an added bonus, I made a deal with my mom and our CEO that if this gets on the trending page, I will drop out of college. So please help me do that so I can stay in the trenches forever. Tay, thank you for coming on. This was a great conversation, and I really enjoyed it.
Likewise. Thank you, Alpha. Thank you, everyone.